today was bad. Light work, people. Light work. Seems we're soft all over the pitch.
They tried to bury us, but they didn't realize that we are seeds. And the bouquet that has blossomed, that is this season, has seen us already pluck one trophy out of the ground. And now there is definitely at least two in our hands. And one of them is what we are the best at, and that is the Champions League. Liverpool, well, no, let me do it the right way. Villarreal 2, Liverpool 3. We're going to Paris, boys. Today I'm here with the main men themselves. I'm here with Conroy. I'm here with Dan. I'm just going to pass the buck straight away. Tell me your feelings right now, Conroy. How are you feeling, man? You're usually composed as well, isn't it? So
yeah, no, I know. Like, to be fair, that was my stomach was turning. I just said to the guys before we came on, said to Dan as well, like, I felt like first half to me it just had everything's went so well this season, and we've controlled, we've figured out games, but I felt like, you know what, I don't even know if it was complacency, mate, but whatever it was, I talk about momentum all the time, and Klopp ironically talks about it all the time, and you just see what happens. And I felt like we're staring down the barrel a little bit. Not to do with, obviously we've got much better quality, but just the way they were pressing us, how poor our passing was. I just, honestly, guys, I had a really, really bad feeling about that second half. And as I said, stayed off Twitter, I had to calm myself down a little bit going into it. But obviously, listen, I'm absolutely buzzing now. It actually felt amazing. See, especially Fabinho's goal. I know we're going to break it down, but that one was the one for me that I felt, I can calm down a bit. I've said that's a relief in the banner because that's generally how I feel. Feel free, we can change that throughout the course of the stream, but that's how I feel. So genuinely, that's the best way to sum up the now. And I'm going to just switch the highlights off because I've just left them on. So I'll let Dan take this and I'll go and switch the highlights off.
That's all right, man. We might need the highlights when when we're watching, talking about the goals as a reminder, because my mind is blank. Dan, did you know that Villarreal only have 50,000 people that live in Villarreal?
Get away! I thought it was massive. No, listen, but I'm buzzing. It's a difficult one to comprehend at the minute. Like, I keep almost reminding myself that we've just reached a Champions League final because I didn't expect that game of football. I did not expect that game of football. I thought we'd seen what little Villarreal had to offer. I mean, I knew they were a good side. I just didn't know they could hurt us. But fair play to them tonight. They did hurt us. And that we're going to talk about the first 45, You mentioned the word bouquet. We were wilting for 45 minutes there, man. We were on the ropes. It felt like Dillian White. And luckily, they didn't manage that big uppercut to keep us down. But yeah, difficult night, but Champions League final. Let's go.
Yes, we are going to Paris. Honestly, I can't wrap my head around it, Conroy. Like, this team this season is doing stuff that even our parents and our grandparents used to always tell us about how dominant Liverpool were in the 80s, and they won the trophies in the end. But what we're witnessing right now, I mean, it's unheard of, surely. I mean, we're here every week. Like, usually most other fan podcasts, they're just wiltering out into like one or two pods a week at the moment. We're here every week. What is going on right now?
No, I know. The thing is, Keith, as well, it's such a weird one because I'd say 90% of the fan base was quite confident going into tonight, and that confidence probably changed straight away within 5 minutes in. So then by the end, it's relief. You're buzzing. It felt like a Champions League semi-final by the end. And probably a lot of us have been guilty for not really treating it like that this week. And I think we'll maybe learn from that in future, because it probably has clipped our wings, and we probably needed that, to be honest. Because I think the games we're going into, if we can pull this off, Keith, which I think we can, mate, we need to be better than that. Because you do that against, and maybe it is who we're playing, but I just feel in general, it's I was so buzzing towards the end, and by the second half, it felt like a Champions League semi-final. And I feel like we maybe all went into tonight's game a little bit, I don't know, not arrogance, but just taking it a bit too lightly. So yeah, it's amazing, and it's like, I'd say to Dan O'Fair, maybe the way that kind of worked out, the fact that Villarreal scored 2 in the first half was probably a good thing for us. And I know in hindsight, me saying that sounds daft, but it meant Klopp made a change at half time. Rarely does that. And I felt like obviously Diaz was one of the main reasons we were so good in the second half. So there's maybe positives in that as well.
I mean, Dan, do you echo those? I mean, complacency, you know, we came into this kind of, okay, 2 goals up. Unai Emery, I remember in his post-match after the game at Anfield, said that when they come to Villarreal, they're going to suffer. Yeah. And I can't almost laugh that off a little bit. Did you, as a fan, I will argue and say I was a bit complacent. What about you? Could you see the yellow submarine from above?
Yeah, I think it was easy to be complacent because, like I alluded to, given what they showed at Anfield last week, it didn't feel like they could hurt us in no way, shape, or form. So I think it was on them talk is cheap, and the talk from the Villarreal side was, oh, yeah, we'll be a different game in Spain. And we're all thinking, I don't know, mate. And then all the Liverpool players and Jurgen Klopp himself is saying, oh, we know it's going to be tough. But I think in our minds, we're thinking, you've got to say that. You've got to say that. But obviously, as it transpired, they weren't wrong. They brought it to us. And maybe there was a little bit of, you're not good enough to match us in our performance. And listen, they caught us on the hop, if you like. And you alluded to the Sevilla game, and it was similar. Fair play to Villarreal. You've got to give them credit. But we managed to regroup, regain our poise, and away we go.
And you know what? Shout out to Villarreal as well. If there's any Villarreal fans that are logging in and watching us, absolutely fair respect. In fact, I would argue that first half was probably one of our hardest. The only team I feel this season that's really brought it to us like that in an entire half is probably someone like Manchester City. Yeah. Other than spells that we've had where we've let games go past us, there's never been a situation where I was looking at us thinking we're not only being outplayed here, but we were being outfought and outdominated, and physically and just heads had dropped. And the team sheet came out, Conroy. The team sheet came out, and I looked at that team and I was like, this is serious business. The players that Klopp went for, brought in, played Jota this time, showed faith in Naby Keita. We all know how his quarterfinal experience went in Spain last year. And also continues to trust Konate in Champions League games. Joel Matip could have more than happily have probably played this game, but Konate continues to start in this Champions League run. How did you feel when that team sheet came out? Did that give you more confidence, or did you feel that actually, some people online were saying, well, not everybody, because he's a polarizing figure, but some argued that why wasn't our captain playing in that game? Some would have argued why didn't Diaz start in that particular game? How did you feel when that team sheet came out?
I feel like Keith, it's a good point. I feel like the front three, to be honest, if it's one of the 5, I think most Liverpool fans aren't complaining. I mean, you've got the option there with the 5 subs to bring anybody on. So I think if it was Diaz or Jota, listen, Diaz is in the best form. No one's disputing that. Again, he showed how good he is tonight. What a signing he's been. But I feel like at times, unless it's the FA Cup final, the Champions League final, you're maybe picking your 3 off the bat. But I feel like you'll be okay with any 3 of those 5 at start because you've got the subs on the bench. With Henderson, I feel like hindsight's a big thing, but I probably would have, because there's a lot of tweets at halftime, and I'm not going on it because people know I like Jordan Henderson as well, and I've stuck up for him a lot of the season. But there is times where I do think you sometimes have to put a value on the experience and leadership and just calming people. Because I think if Henderson does it, listen, I'm not saying Henderson is not going to make a few sloppy passes as well, but you just know that I feel like it may have nipped in the bud sooner, but that might be wrong because it might have just been the feeling in that game, because Thiago Alcantara couldn't pass 5 yards in that first half. Let's be honest. Let's not exaggerate. I'm not even exaggerating, but everybody couldn't. Honestly, Andy Robertson, I don't think played one pass in the first half that landed to a player. I think, but genuinely, it was. I think I say Thiago because it's for someone who's such a technician. I seen him play the ball to Mane 3 times and he hit it out, and it was like, when that happens, everyone's not at it. If you know what I mean, something that's so natural to Thiago, and so it's maybe in hindsight you can say Henderson, but I do think there's something to be said in certain games. Henderson brings it. But fair play to Naby. He had a really poor first half, but he obviously turned up second half, and that's all you can ask. Hindsight makes it look like that, Keith, but that might not actually be the case.
Well, hindsight is a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing, Dan. And hindsight is a beautiful thing. Now we look back on it, we could say, hey, should we have been more conservative, right? We didn't need to score. We just needed to not concede, right? We could have casually gone through this game 0-0. Yeah. Pragmatic managers of the past may have gone with five, like a 4-5-1. They may have just had more stability because they knew the team was going to come out. Are you that type of manager? Do you think that way? Did you think that maybe Liverpool had been a bit too attacking in this sense, or were you happy with what you saw before the game kicked off?
It's an interesting one because in no way, shape or form do you expect Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, to take a backward step in terms of formation. You obviously alluded to like a 5 at the back there. It's just not going to happen. And I would never want us to do that either. I've got no issue with our style of play, if you like. But obviously the personnel kind of dictate how attacking we can be. Now, I thought the front line, Salah and Mane are shoo-ins, there's no doubt about it. I thought the inclusion of Jota, who doesn't hold the ball up as well as a Sadio Mane centrally, was interesting. That inclusion for me suggested that Klopp wanted to kill the game early with goals because Jota's so clinical in the box and that's what he's good at. His starting place made me think that Klopp thought, okay, I want this tie done by half time and then I can start taking people off. And the same could be said for Naby Keita over Henderson. Although I love Naby Keita, I think when you've got him and Thiago in the same side, you've got two very progressive players in different ways because Thiago wants to pass the ball and make us play that way, whereas Keita wants to run. Yeah. And I felt like playing them two together and not Henderson was quite aggressive. And those two people in particular made me think, okay, Klopp's not messing around here. He wants this done, dusted quickly. Because I think, like I say, if he'd have gone with Mane central and Henderson, there's a little bit more experience now and it's slightly more conservative.
It's definitely Firmino. If Firmino was fit,
exactly,
I think he 100% goes into that, calms the game down 100%. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dan. It really is, mate. But the thing is, he probably thought, I don't know, just a side note of Dan's question to both of you, Keith and Dan. Do you think he expected Villarreal to press so aggressively at the start, or do you think that caught him off?
No, I think that caught him off guard. Yeah,
and that's a credit to Emery. Give Emery credit. Like I do think this is where Emery always seems to have, when he's getting written off, if you know what I mean, he always seems to. He just does something. He's got that in him. So I was quite blown away by their pressing, to be honest.
To be perfectly honest with you, I would argue. I'd be interested to compare Villarreal's running stats in those 45 minutes compared to their average. Because I get this feeling, and it's happened. I feel like it happened at Inter. I feel like teams kill themselves to beat us, and to play that type of aggression. Because in that first half, they didn't do the whole passing in between defenders. They were just launching it. They were launching it into our half, and as soon as we got the ball, we were completely surrounded. Like the press from Albiol, who's 37 years old. To be doing that type of press so high and it was up Mane's backside throughout the majority of that first half. Absolute credit to them, and credit goes to them because we start the game, right? We start the game and it's already 1-0, right? Diaz gets it in from the back post. It's almost like kind of both goals were quite similar in terms of catching us in behind our wing backs. Probably, definitely, actually. Another weakness of Liverpool's. I've seen Liverpool concede a lot of goals where the ball goes up from one side to the other, and Robertson or Alexander-Arnold almost lose their man behind them,
and not enough pressure on the ball. Usually,
there isn't, right? Naby Keita, he starts the game in a horror show. No pressure onto the left hand side. Almost just allows that cross to come in, and then Diaz popped into the back post and gets it in. How, when you saw that particular goal being scored, judging back to what we've seen in the past and how Liverpool have conceded, good goal by Villarreal, or more Liverpool just pulled their pants down?
I'll let you go, Dan. I'll let you go.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, good goal by Villarreal. Obviously, something they've worked on, like we alluded to there. We've seen it happen to Liverpool quite a lot. And I think the commentators alluded to the fact that Emery had watched a certain amount of Liverpool games back to back in the build up to this. So he's definitely done his homework, if you like, which I suppose you'd expect. But yeah, disappointing from a defensive standpoint. Obviously, Keita doesn't quite get close enough to his man, which is pretty basic. But really, it was just indicative of the start of the game, and it kind of just spread throughout the side. Like, everyone was making just little errors. And what I will say about Villarreal is they were clinical in that moment. Like, it was so early in the game, and they just kept the ball alive. And I mean, Capoue gets lucky because that's a shot. It comes off like his heel essentially and goes into his. That's quite unfortunate from our point of view. But like I say, they've done their homework. The fullback should do better. Robertson's the one caught out for that. And it was just a sluggish start for us in general. And it kind of all just culminated in that moment. So they caught us again a little bit stale there. We looked a little bit shell-shocked. It was a nightmare start, and it was just what they wanted. So, yeah, again, fair play to them. Come out the blocks flying. We were nowhere near it.
And the goal in our box as well, which is a surprise. I'm sure the XG gods out there could probably tell us how many chances we concede within our own penalty area. It's few and far between. So for Conroy, for us to concede a goal in such an unlikely manner, it just gave the illusion that this was going to be a hell of a night, right? Because, you know, like Dan said, there was passes, like we couldn't string two passes together. You know, Thiago was getting hounded every 5 minutes. Naby Keita was getting hounded every 5 minutes. It almost felt like this, like Fabinho was, you know, that meme where the guy's got the sellotape and he's slapping it on to the big jug of water, right?
Oh, yeah, to try and stop it.
That's what Fabinho looked like, because he was literally the only man in there. And when they were getting the counterattacks, it was like he was having to deal with three people at once. And it continued. Conrad, do we blame the rain?
No, we don't mention the weather, because we don't do that, because it's a sport. It's the same for everybody. But on that, I do feel like the way it was. Oh, I just lost my train of thought there. I can't remember what I was going to say.
It's been an emotional day.
No, it was regarding the start to the game. The part I did say just before we done a stream, post-match stream in Newcastle, and we're on, and it was Steve, myself, Grizz, and I've completely forgot. Apologies, I'll check who it was, the last person. It was a good stream though, check it out. And I did say at the very end, I said, the one thing Liverpool can't be is be complacent or just expect teams to roll over. Like, use your experience from playing at Anfield to appreciate that other teams do have certain stadiums that give momentum and atmosphere that put you under pressure. And it felt like, I know Klopp has probably mentioned that because he's so big on intensity and momentum, but it felt like they didn't expect that. And the fact that Dan says shell shock, that disappoints me. That does disappoint me. I understand stuff can happen and it's psychological, right? But you should be prepared for that. You should be prepared that it should not be that easy. Unless someone scores a 30-yard screamer in the first 5 minutes.
This season.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Then that shouldn't happen. It's really I tip my hat to Villarreal, because that's Bayern Munich and Liverpool, probably two of the best teams in the world, and they've scored at their stadium in the first 5 minutes against them. Because that was 2 minutes against Bayern, and I don't. What was the time tonight? Was it 4?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, literally 3 minutes. As soon as we could even as soon as your cup of tea was brewed, bam! It was one of them nights. 3 minutes, that goal getting in by India. And Dan, like, shell shocked. Conroy was disappointed. I was disappointed because, you know, you look at players like Thiago, right? He's a perfect example.
Yeah.
He would you argue is the metronome in this situation. He's the one that could probably be, him and Keita to a certain extent are two midfielders that can, you know, when the ball comes at them and they're surrounded, they have the balance, they have the awareness, and they have the ball control to be able to protect that football and move it about and keep it ticking and keep it moving. Sometimes the likes of Milner's might get, you know, lambasted by the fans because they say these guys always go backwards, they always go sideways. But actually, that's what we needed in that first 45 minutes, surely.
Yeah, there was definitely a case to say Thiago in particular was too adventurous because the simple things weren't coming off. And Thiago being the way he is, I've always said his recent passing accuracy being in the high 90s is quite frankly ludicrous because he doesn't do them simple passes. He tries passes that other people simply can't see. So for his passing percentage to be so high is ridiculous. But tonight, we needed him to keep it a little bit simpler for a while. And what was, I suppose, most disappointing in that? I mean, you just mentioned his and Keita's qualities there, which is absolutely spot on. But for Thiago in particular, he's perhaps the most well-decorated footballer in this squad.
Easy.
Like in terms of his honours, individual and as a team. So someone that good and with that background and that experience, you'd expect him to sort of sniff out that situation. Plus the fact he's probably played there numerous times for Barcelona in the past and go, we need to sort of put a pin in this game.
Yeah,
and he never did it. He never did it. And that was... No one did it in the first 45 minutes. I'm not going to blame him. And I love him to pieces, by the way. I think he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But at no point in that first half did he go, okay, we need to really calm things down here and just dictate play. Just couldn't do it. And for somebody, like I say, who's been there, done it, and got every single T-shirt there is, that was a little bit disappointing.
It was. But there was something. So Conroy alluded to off chat. He was like, he doesn't know how I tweet at halftime. So I try not to tweet.
Especially when it gets to this end of the season, Keith, because it's so like, you know, it's intense. I think a lot of now anyway. I think I've turned now. I'm not calm anymore. I'm very like nervous now. Calmness is gone. Tonight is that's the final nail. I am absolutely on edge every game now.
We better stop. We better get your missus's number. We're gonna have to give, you know what I mean, just to check up on you.
If she's still here by the end of it, to be honest, she might be away by. But by the way, Keith, sorry, Keith, it was Errol. I completely forgot. It was Errol there, and I was getting mixed up. I couldn't remember if it was Mick or Errol, but Mick was last week. It was Errol from Redmen who's on the show, the post-match. So check Errol out, top guy as well.
Shout out Errol. Look, before we go into the second goal for Villarreal, I did want to touch on, I don't know, look, with all the madness that's going on, I had this feeling, though, that there was still space. There was a few times where when actually a pass did go off, all of a sudden Mo Salah, Jota and Mane were 3v3 in a situation, and Villarreal kept a lot of space behind that defense. And I had that feeling that I was kind of like, they're doing a lot of high press at the moment. That high press is just not going to be able to hold. It's not going to be able to kind of keep going. And I felt there were still a few little chances. And in the second goal, and this one I'm going to give over to you, Conroy, first. The second goal was just an absolute disappointment from two players that I hold in the highest regards. Andy Robertson for how he dealt with Etienne and Capoe, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is not a small man. Yeah, and maybe in the summer he might want to go to Leipzig, Red Bull's training ground, and work on his jumping, because this happens a lot. What happens? How do two of the best wing backs in world football get caught out in such a situation?
Yeah, it's I'd call it lethargic. It was a lethargic goal for me. It's very much so initially the ball comes over, and actually, to be fair to Robertson, he didn't have a good game, but he does the first part correctly. He stops Capoe coming. But then it's like, I don't know, a few people have said he's been leggy. I'm not going to jump on that excuse because we all know how much I love Robbo. I'm just going to say the bad game. But if maybe anything, there was parts where he maybe thought he maybe looked a bit leggy, and this would be one of them. And it's like, he does the first part, and to his credit, he's always usually quite good at stopping the cross coming in. We criticised Trent for that in the past, but Robbo has always been one to be pretty good at that. And I don't know if he just thinks he's going to cut it back, but whatever he does, he's just too slow to get out. And it's I'd say a dash cross. There's not much pace on the ball. Decent, fair play to Capoe. He was making those runs and he was causing problems. But then a cross like that, there's not much pace in it. Reminiscent actually of, is it Harry Kane against Man City? When Kulusevski dinks out, kind of chips a ball in like that, takes the pace of it, and he catches Kyle Walker, flat feet. I think it's Kyle Walker. So to me, I think it's kind of similar with Trent there. Do you think we're maybe being too critical to Trent, or he's got? If he reads that better, he gets there. I still think it's a magnificent header by Coquelin. I think it's the height of me. So for him to score against the best keeper in the world with that header is quite impressive. There's mistakes from both. Trent should probably read it better. However, I do think there's got to be some credit to the header as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, do we give Coquelin his flowers? It was his first goal in 8 years. in the Champions League. That little man popped up with a headed goal in our box. Nothing you could do about it. It's one of them ones. Or, you know, Trent just goes over him. He missed times. It's almost like he was gonna jump. It's life, isn't it? Like, how many situations we've all been in life where you're just about to do something and then something just flips you off. It's like me when I leave the eggs to boil and I'm like, right, 5 minutes for the eggs, so I have them nice and soft, and then before you know it, something's chicken and it's hard boiled. It's horrible. We've all been there, haven't we?
All been there. Yeah, I think both Trent and Robbo, if they had their time again, would act that little bit sharp, and that's what I meant earlier on by shell shocked. It was like our decision making was just slightly off, and fair play to Villarreal, they were on it. They weren't giving us a moment. Like, that's what I meant by clinical as well. They were sharp, they were at it. And Coquelin, it was just nice to see him actually stood up on his feet for a minute, because he spent the initial 20 minutes on the floor doing my head in, quite frankly, he was. And I'm not really one to get annoyed by that sort of stuff because part of the game, but he was really bad for it. But yeah, I don't really sort of attach much blame to Trent on that. It's one of them. He's got the run on him. Trent's flat-footed, but you'd want him to be in that position in many ways. A similar goal Brentford scored against us early on in the season, the 3-3, Trent at the back post. People are running onto it. If you're flat and people are running into the box late, there's not a great deal you can do.
If it's closer, Dan, see if it's like in the 6-yard box, and I think he's got time to read it. But because it's quite it's a straight ball and it's quite an impressive header. I feel like it's maybe a narrative to blame Trent straight away in that situation. Don't get me wrong, I do think a more experienced fullback defensively reads that better, 100%. But again, it's like it's always like trying to find a chink in his armour, you know, to try and drag him down.
Yeah, definitely 100%. That was my initial thought. As soon as I seen it was anywhere near Trent, I thought, well, there's another sort of bit of weaponry. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's the same for the Robertson one earlier. I think both Trent and Robertson, A, they could probably react quicker, but B, when they have reacted slowly, they could both probably do more to put off the attacker. Like, Robertson doesn't really get close enough to Capoue to do anything about it. And the same could be said for Trent. He doesn't really even lean into Coquelin. Like, all you want him to do, having not jumped, is make life difficult for the attacker, and he doesn't even do that. So, a little bit disappointed. I'd say not too bad.
In comparison with the first goal, right, I think the lack of pressing the ball is a big problem, because, to be fair, if you put a good ball in the box, right, a run can always get round the fullback like Robertson in the first one. It can happen. Sometimes the timing can just be right. But in that one, I think you're absolutely spot on. He can put more pressure on Capoue. There's time there. It's not as if it's like instant. There's time for him to get over. And
Well, you know, the Estadio de la Ceramica was going wild at halftime, and Liverpool, who have been spinning plates all season, were about to crash out. And then the second half happens.
That's what I was hoping, Keith. I didn't look at it, but I'm pretty sure I got the feeling people were desperate. This is it. They're never going to forget this. But ultimately.
And why would you? I mean, like, literally, you're beating Liverpool Football Club at the moment, and it's been a tale of our Champions League run. Actually, for the first time, we're not the underdogs. In fact, every game we've played, we've been the big dogs coming into this game, right? And actually beating us or playing against us has been it's almost like an honor for these teams: Inter, Benfica, Villarreal, Milan in the situation they're in. Maybe not Atletico Madrid as much, but obviously Porto as well. All of these guys are underdogs that have been playing us in our Champions League run, and actually we've had to be the big team that's had to deal with the situation. And going in at halftime, how are you dealing with the situation, Dan? Like, what did you do at halftime? Because at halftime, my missus came downstairs and she said, "Don't be too hard on them. You got to believe." And I was cussing. I was like, She was like, "Come on, man, don't be so hard on them." How did you deal with it at halftime?
I was still optimistic. I didn't think we've been that good this season. I didn't think I'd ever see us play as badly as we did in the first half, quite frankly. And I knew we've done a lot of sort of Jekyll and Hyde performances this season, whereby we've put things right second half. I was at Arsenal away. We were horrendous for 45 minutes. We were superb for 45 minutes. So I was always quietly confident that we would turn it around. I was similar to what you said earlier. I always felt like Villarreal at some point would have given us everything they had. I didn't expect it to be immediately. I thought they'd come out flying again second half, if I'm honest, but they didn't. I just remember I could just picture Gary Neville's Twitter and his face drinking that wine, and I thought, if there's anyone in this world we need to turn this round for, it's this man. And thankfully we did.
Yeah.
So I'm similar to Conroy in many respects. I'm quite relaxed, I think, at the moment. Just taking it all in my stride, because I think if I get too het up either way en route to a potential quadruple, I'm going to be going to see a doctor in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to just stay calm. And I was pretty calm at halftime, all things considered.
And Conroy, Klopp goes in at halftime. You know, he's obviously Pep, Linda's the team. You know, they really rally around, and he makes a change straight away. Klopp has been doing this all season. He's never really done this as much, I don't think, as he's done this season.
Not really at 45 though, Keith, is it? I think the second goal forces the half-time change. Though, you know what I mean? I think he's always doing the early change, but I think as soon as the second goal's in, I think he's like, bring Diaz on.
Yeah, and why Jota? And what's going on with Jota? A little bit, I see conversations taking place.
He had a good game against Newcastle as well. I think he's been in poor form, but he done well against Newcastle. I think link-up wise, his finishing's always like good, and he's always a threat. I just think like you got 5, right? They can't all be in form at the same time. And I do think the problem, I said to Dan before, Jota scores when his players plays poorly, which doesn't help the cause, because people try to big up the stats, but he's not in good form. So then when he doesn't play well, they're like, well, I'm expecting like a Maradona. I'm joking, but they're expecting like a great link-up performance, and he's not really at that at the moment since his injury. But I think he's the one to call, because I think Diaz obviously goes to the left, and Mane's been very good for the middle. You know, he's done pretty decent. The results show that there. And I think you're not going to take Salah off, are you? Because he's a talisman at times. So I think that's why it's Jota. And do you know what? To be perfectly honest, in the squad, right, if you really want to do well for the team, I think there is a ethic that, okay, this is best for the team. And I think it was crying out for a change with Diaz to cause damage on their side, and that's why the decision was made. But I do think that second goal, he does it. If it's 1-0, there's no way he makes the change at halftime. He usually does the thing where he gives the boys 15 minutes to try and make up for it, and then makes the changes. But I think he was not having it, because he could see that they just, I mean, even Thiago was losing his head. He's like one of the, you know, a calm influence on the park. So I think he'd saw enough, and he had to make a change.
And Dan, would you have made any more changes? Because I was looking at that at halftime. I was thinking Thiago lost his head. I was thinking Keita's lost his head. I felt Konate's distribution in the centre-back position compared to what Joel Matip can bring to that situation, I felt he was just pinging it left, right, and centre, and it was going straight back to the Villarreal. You know, if you were Jurgen Klopp in that situation, were you making more changes, or were you keeping a cool head and thinking, do you know what? Let's get that attacking spark back, and we'll keep everything as it is.
I think Keita was relatively fortunate in the nicest possible sense to come back out for the second half. I mean, after what happened to him at Real Madrid's training ground last season, it would have been brutal to take him off at half-time, potentially, or even before that, obviously, like it was in that case. I think Klopp's done the right thing, obviously, hindsight, again, to use that word, just by making the one change, because it's a pretty straightforward change. And it was one that was obvious. Obviously, Conroy's pretty much summed up the reasons behind taking Jota off really nicely there. I felt like to keep hold of the ball, potentially, and to offer a different type of threat was really important. And to go from, you said it earlier, to go from Klopp not really being keen on making halftime changes, not something he does traditionally, to go from never doing it to making 2 at halftime in such a big change, in such a big game, is a massive jump. So I think one little tweak was probably perfect.
On mute, Keith.
The host muted himself. Fantastic. This is great. It's been a while. I haven't been around for much. I had to do it.
I know.
You know, yeah. So similar to how you feel, I thought Keita was very, very fortunate to come on in the first half. But he showed that the Naby Keita of today is not the Naby Keita of yesterday. Because in the first 10 minutes of that game, we saw a different Keita. We saw a Keita that seemed to be more bullish. We saw a Keita I felt that seemed to be more confident on the ball. Maybe that was in part due to the fact that Villarreal came out in that second half and went 2 steps backwards. And for me, that will go down as the biggest mistake that Unai Emery has made in this tie. he should have gone for the jugular in that first 15 minutes. And you know what he played for? He played for a situation where he's going to hold it out, see how it goes, and then catch us for the third goal. And that, for me, was the biggest mistake, because not only did he decide to allow Villarreal to sit back a little bit more, Luis Diaz comes on, Conroy, and he pushes Villarreal's defensive line back another 5 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, what is this player? Who is this man? Where is he? How have we managed to be gifted such a quality player and, you know, just take it away when it comes to him? Because for me, from an attacking sense, he makes you. Van Dijk said it in the post match in terms of like, he will just drop that ball and he will stare you in the face and he will happily take you 1-on-1. How do you feel that he changed that game when he came on?
No, he did. I thought he was superb. He really is. I feel like he's in that phase as well, where it's like the teams he's playing against. Maybe tonight's a bad example, but in England, for example, you find that when someone comes from abroad, at times there's not as much experience of playing them, so they don't work out his patterns. Now, I think he's quite unpredictable, so I'm contradicting myself. But I feel like he's right in that form right now, where it's like people aren't sure how to deal with him. Now, I'm sure that'll change in the future. He might get doubled up, but then it leaves space for the other wingers, strikers. So it's great. But as a player right now, I just think the unpredictability, I say this all the time, but I don't mean it it shouldn't be used in he doesn't know. He 100% knows what he's doing. They just don't know what he's doing. So it's not a case of, I'm going to surprise myself. Because every time I see him with the ball, he's always changing up against defenders, and I just think he's been one of the signings of the season. Like I'll give a few mentions, like Kulusevski's be one. He's right up there as well. But I do generally think for us, and obviously it is from a biased point of view, I just think he's been crucial to our success, because imagine being in that game tonight, we probably would have got through it, right? We probably would have. But to have that option off the bench, and I think shout out to Fletcher, Darren Fletcher, who's on the comms, he said that as well. He says for a team to be able to bring Diaz off the bench to just, when Villarreal have done good work, done all that, and then you've got Diaz to deal with, even like someone like Foyth, who'd actually had a good game up till then, to have to deal with that second half when you've already put so much effort in. I mean, psychologically, that's probably going to have an effect in the mind games of the competition. So, yeah, I think he's been outstanding. Like I say this all the time, and I said it the other day. Diaz is a great example not to look at stats all the time, because like you might look at his goals and assists and think, he's been decent, but like when you actually see the impact he's had on games tonight, like taking the game by the scruff of the neck and just every ball going down his side and taking players on, creating space, I feel like you can't quantify that as people look at goals and assists and think he's not been unbelievable, but I think he's been outstanding. I really do.
No, absolutely. And to come on into a Champions League semi-final with the highest of highest stakes, I think that elevates him, in my opinion, in terms of signing in the season. Don't get me wrong, what Kulu's doing at Spurs right now is
very good as well, yeah.
Very, very good. But when you're playing in this type of intensity, in this type of atmosphere, with so much on the line, I think that takes a whole different type of mentality. And talking of mentality, Fabinho, 8 goals this season, man. 8 goals from our defensive midfielder. We used to cry out for goals from the midfield. You know, he pops up with another one here. He decides to shoot without instead of cutting it back. People may argue and say that Rui's on the take with how that went through his legs. And you know, he didn't have the greatest of first halves. Take us through that goal and take us through Fabinho as well in terms of what he's contributing to Liverpool's season this season.
Yeah, the most prolific, bold Brazilian I've ever seen play football, Fabinho. Yeah, that Rui, just to touch on him, he's wild. He was wild in the Anfield game, wasn't he? He's not right.
It seems like a good laugh, though, doesn't it? It does seem like a proper good laugh.
Yeah. Well worth watching, like worth the entrance fee alone. That keeper.
That penalty against Man United, mate, he'll always be good in my book, Dan. After that winning penalty against United, he'll always be good in my book.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah, the goal. Yeah, it's very smart movement for Fabinho, actually, because he's the one who almost takes it upon himself. It's lovely little link-up play, isn't it, to begin with? But then Fabinho sort of drops into that pocket of space and keeps himself on side, most importantly. And obviously, in terms of the pullback, I don't know what you guys thought, but watching it live, the pullback was by far the better option.
Yeah.
It seemed to me. Like, fizzing it across the 6-yard box just seemed like the obvious choice. Whether he's thought this keeper's got a serious error in him, I'm not sure. But Fabinho, is a really clean striker of football. We've seen him score quite a lot of goals now, more so than ever this year. A lot of them have been in the area as well. But previously, his goals tended to be worldies. Obviously, we all remember the Man City one again at Anfield again, which was just a stunning strike. So to see him take the shot on isn't that much of a surprise. But yeah, he was outstanding second half, like they all were, to be fair. And like Conroy alluded to earlier, I don't even know if it was off air or on air, that goal made us all breathe a huge sigh of relief. Because even though up until that point, I was felt a lot more comfortable because we've been so much better. And like you said, Villarreal did everything wrong in my book. They should have been at us again, and they were the opposite. So that just played right into our hands. But Fabinho firing home was massive news.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, the guy, funny enough, wants a right back, so you would have almost thought that he was just going to cut it back. Do you know what I mean? He probably would have found Mane. He actually said it in the interview afterwards. He said he thought that Mane was offside, and you could see him thinking. That was the funniest thing. Like when it's slow mo, he's kind of looked and he's thought about it, and he looks up and he's like, "I'm gonna fucking hit this."
But do you know what though, Keith? The one thing that does annoy me is see when a keeper, like when we live in a football where you've got like Alisson's, Ederson's, like shout out to like Mendy's, All Blacks, top keepers. See when a keeper's not at that level, it does annoy me the amount of times people just don't have a ping, right? I actually, it was like a shot with anger. Fabinho's shot. It was like I actually think the guy, what he done, you know, all jokes aside, like the guy's probably overachieving in his career. The Villarreal keeper, fair play, like he probably is, right? But you know he's not a top keeper. You know he's not that great a keeper. So why is this the first shot I'm seeing of anger at him? That does annoy me. And I think Fabinho just thought, I'm having a ping. And that's why that might be my favourite goal of the night. He's just went, enough of this kind of walk it in, pass it in, look for you, you're my teammate. I'm just hitting this. And I felt before that, it felt like we were toothless. And that was the first time it wasn't toothless. So I was buzzing with that, to be honest.
You're right, actually, because there was a lot of situations where, as I say, it was like the 3v2s, and then they decide to cut it across, and then it gets cleared, or they decide to cut it across, and things are offside. And another shout out to Fabinho for staying on side again, but I feel that was Villarreal's legs a little bit. You know, like we talk about the offside trap a lot, right? And I felt that Fabinho really, if you're alert as a back four, you should be catching him offside. He walked into that. I mean, most people should have been offside for that. And then we go to the second goal, Conroy, because it's a very similar situation. Initially, I thought it was offside because I thought, no way, Diaz had all this time to just slot it in. But, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold, the great again, man. This guy.
Yeah. Clutch moment. I think, like, the best thing about Trent tonight wasn't great. Decent game overall. Probably not very good first half. Like as I say, no one was good, but then stepping up is what people remember, and it's probably a poignant performance because people they've got the pitchforks out, as Dan said earlier. They're ready to strip anything he does, and that moment of cutting back on his left, and he's been working that all season because he knows he can get an extra yard, and if he can time it right, and I actually think probably our front three were quite clued on. I think, to be fair, Villarreal's backline, I think at that point again, Keith's quite tired, and I think Diaz is quite from him. I think Diaz makes a very clever run. He obviously Salah's kind of on the edge of being offside, and he just follows in, and it's what a pick out. And Robertson, to be fair, he might have not scored, but Robertson was behind Diaz as well. So obviously they looked at that and they saw it as a point of weakness. But honestly, that was a great goal. It really was such a satisfying goal because he's picked him out perfectly, and then it's a good header. To be fair, it's a good header. You might think it's lucky, but he heads at his legs, and that's probably the smartest place to go there, because if he tries to lob him, it's got to be some header. I think it's a smart decision and a brilliant goal. But Trent, 23, like in a tense situation, and it still is tense, to pick that out, to make us all at ease. Like, honestly, the kid is just special. Like, all jokes aside, we say like I don't enough credit or whatever, like, for what he's done, but Trent is literally generational, and like, honestly, he actually is. If you don't get it, you're never going to get it, and it's that simple. I'm not going to talk to you about it. You know?
You can't understand it, but put it this way, of all the players in our squad, that is the one position that there is no one in world football that has that ability. And we've got goals, we've got defend, we've got everything in this team. But what he does there, that foot-eye coordination, Dan, is just something that you can't that takes hours of practice on the training ground. And he even went to Red Bull this year, and he's been doing stuff with like I think VR in terms of trying to bring technology into his delivery. He even says himself he doesn't do a lot of the skills. There we go. Shout out Spirit, and shout out the chat as always as well. Salah does take 2 defenders away. Another thing that obviously we don't speak about enough sometimes. What Salah does on and off the ball is just as smart. But again, that technique, and he was trying it a few times, and it was almost there, didn't quite come off. And I mean, that's the kind of technique that can win you a final, right?
Oh, 100%. And I spoke earlier about Thiago's vision and the things he tries, and Trent's very similar, but from right back, because often his deliveries are pinpoint, and he actually played a couple of crossfield passes to Luis Diaz when he came on as well that were just out of this world. And what he offers as a right back is it's genius, quite frankly. There's some very good right backs knocking around at the minute, but none of them can do what Trent Alexander-Arnold can do, and we're very blessed to have him doing it. But it's not just the quality of delivery, it's the different types of delivery he can offer. Like, again, harking back, we all remember the one in the Club World Cup final that finds Firmino on the floor. Yes. I mean, to pick that pass out is just next level. And that's the sort of thing we're talking about. And if you've got that from right back, as a defence, you must be just on edge. Every time he gets the ball, you must be on tenterhooks. And I think the point there made about Salah is really important, because those two on the same side, and earlier on this season, it was like a triangle of those two and Harvey Elliott. That's just a nightmare to defend, an absolute nightmare. And that's why you think, give him space like you have done tonight on his left foot, no problem. And he delivers that. But what can you do about it? Like,
he's adding. You can tell he's like last season, I think at times it was like spam cross, like from the right. I think you can tell he's moving more centrally for a better angle. Yes. He's doing it on his left foot. He looks confident with that now. He doesn't even go to the byline that often, but he might do that now and again as well. So you can tell by him having a variety, it means they don't know what he's going to do either. Yeah. So it's like, if they're, keep him on his right, or put him on his left, sorry. Well, see when his left is even decent, not great, just even decent, right? Of course. With his ability and the runs, if we work towards that strength, then you're going to get chances. Honestly, he's basically trying to take any weaknesses out of his game, which is scary when he's 23. Like, it's scary. And all jokes defensively, like, we know he's not amazing defensively, but I think he's been decent, and and he will keep improving that way. He's not been poor at all, as people like to say. He's been decent there. Everyone has a few poor games. That's life.
Yeah.
I feel like by the time he's 26, 27, he'll just be like, I don't know if there'll be any flaws to his game.
And we're talking about bumper contracts, and we're talking about who needs to earn what. And for me, that is the man. That is the man you want to tie down for life, because ultimately, like, you both alluded to it, football teams, like, they could be having the greatest game of their life, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold will put one ball in, and that's it. It's on a silver platter for them. Honestly, we're truly blessed, and it's incredible. 23 years old, his third Champions League final. I mean, Gareth, he's been to more finals than you, mate. Like, get him in the team already. Sort it out, for fuck's sake.
Who cares about them?
I'll need to check the records. There'll be a few records broken tonight for like getting to finals for some players, I think. Like, because
we're going to touch on that, because I want to talk about Jurgen Klopp in Europe, because there's a story to be told on that one. But before we go on to that story, there's another story that could be brewing in the mix, Conroy, and that is Ballon d'Or Mane.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. So you want me to go that goal?
I've been waiting for this, bro. All year. I've been waiting for this. Before we go on to actually, no, let's go straight on to Ballon d'Or Mane. So no, before we go on to this, sorry, someone in the chat said something really, really interesting. Shout out Digon D. Mane's goal means he has surpassed.
Yeah, I've got that here. I'll bring it up then.
Drogba. I mean, he has surpassed Didier Drogba 14 as the leading African goal scorer in the knockout phase of the competition. I mean, first of all, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I was a big Didier Drogba fan, except when he played against Liverpool. But I mean, we spoke about Rui losing his head a bit, but I mean, Sadio still had a lot to do. Conroy, is his name going to have to be, could his name potentially be on that ballot as number one if Liverpool do the quadruple?
Probably not, unfortunately, Keith, because you've got a person who's probably going to get the Player of the Year and the Football Writers Player. Or he's already got the Football Writers Player of the Year, and I think probably Salah, as you say, he's been good now. He's not in the form he was. He's absolute optimum at the start of the season, but whoever over a season can do that, it's probably impossible. I feel like the thing, Keith, if we get the quad, there's always one player who gets it, and I feel like if you've got those two in the bag, it's probably going to be Salah, if any, who's going to get the Ballon d'Or. But do you know what? Though? Like, listen, I do think you've got a bit of a portfolio for Mane. I'll give that, because he gets his country to World Cup, wins the AFCON. If he's pivotal in the Champions League as well, if he obviously finishes strong goals in the Premier League as well, his overall numbers are up there as well. You never know, mate. You never know. What I would say about Mane is that AFCON win was huge for him. It really was. Like, and I'd said that, we spoke about it, Keith, and I did say people are like indifferent. I said, if you're actually asking me, I want Mane to win, because I think Salah will be fine either way, but Mane, that could give him another gear, or at least kind of keep him being effective and part of the team. And I think it's done the former. It's really just kicked him on, and he's been absolutely clutch. I keep saying clutch, but he's been absolutely. He's been performing well, but also scoring. He's had games where he's been scoring but not performing well, but he's definitely performing at a good level now. And Keith, you listen, if he scores a winner in the Champions League final, right, then you might have a case.
I mean, wheel it out. You know when they say, like, I got receipts, Dan. I got so many receipts on YouTube defending Mane. But the goal itself, Dan, take us through that, because, ultimately it's just a crazy situation with the goalkeeper. But we've seen situations like this happen before, right? We've seen goalkeepers rush out and players still F it up. Like, what's going through your head as Rui Kumba? Are you confident that Mane's putting that in the back of the net?
Not particularly, no, to be honest with you. But Mane reborn is a central forward, which is, I suppose, the best way of putting him, because he's not a natural false nine like Firmino is. I suppose we probably all should have been confident of him putting away, because he's been absolutely outstanding. Absolutely outstanding these last few weeks. He's been probably the pick of the front three. Salah's had his little dip. We've seen Luis Diaz in fits and starts, but he's been unbelievable as well. But Sadio Mane is probably the pick right now. And yet the composure and, I suppose, the wherewithal to realise the situation that's going on around with it in that moment is exceptional, because there's so much going on with the keeper flying out 40 yards away from his goal, ended up on the floor, and to not really react to that situation, to go, okay, and to still have the presence of mind to stay calm and round, I think it's Van Foyth, is it, who goes to ground to try and stop him, just to round him and go, it's okay, I'm still in total control of this entire situation. And then just he didn't even rush to finish at that point. He even made sure his feet were right.
A little bit too slow for me. That the way he hit it.
Too slow.
No, do you know what I mean? No. That it was fine. The finish was great. I'm just saying, but see the pace on the finish. I don't know if he meant to hit it a little bit hard. It was fine, but I just see when it slowly went over the line, I was just a bit like, but like, you know how he just
was going to come out of camera.
Not as he's about to hit it, but as he's about to. I just thought he would have hit it a little bit earlier. But as I say, it's actually it's probably a comment to like how confident he is now, because it is such a calm finish. Some people probably take it straight away as soon as they beat Foyth, but he runs
exactly. In. Yeah, and not only that, just to say on that, his decision making, I think we can all agree he had a pretty poor season last year by his standards. His numbers ended up being okay, but the amount of big chances he missed were a hell of a lot. And his decision making was a huge part of that last season, I always felt. He was rushing things and he wasn't passing when he should have, etc., etc. But that is the epitome of good decision making. To round the keeper, then the last defender, and then still have that presence of mind to stop and then finish. It's perfect.
Yeah, mere mortals like me would have tried to take the shot the minute the keeper came out. I would have felt like David Beckham against Wimbledon. But I would be like, it's my moment. The keeper's gone halfway line, and you're totally right. It was all about composure. And to keep your head against, again, the situation in the Champions League semi-final. Yes, we've got the 2-goal cushion at that situation, but Dan, you're quite rightly. That Sadio Mane of last season probably shanks that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He probably hits the post, he probably hits the side net. He had such a frustrating season last season. And what I just rate so highly about that is, again, I like to mirror what we see with football in real life, right? We all get in situations where we think we're never going to see the light of day, right? We all get into ruts in life, we always get into bad situations. But someone like Sadio Mane has shown us this season that you can be at the top of the tree, you can get dragged right back down to earth, but you can get back on that ladder and you can go again and you can be the main person again. As long as you believe in the talent that you have, there is no question on going back to that pinnacle. And shout out Sadio Mane, who closes off the game. We have a few more chances. Kapua gets sent off, and then the result is, we are going to Paris. But Conroy, we're going to Paris, but we've got to have a conversation about Jurgen Klopp in Europe, because this man's European record is phenomenal. This is now, I believe, this is his 4th Champions League final. He's been to the Europa League final. He's never, ever, ever been knocked out of the group stages in any team that he's managed in the Champions League. How, is it time to start talking about him as, this is his competition a little bit, right? He knows how to win these knockouts. We don't talk about it enough. The man is pretty good in Europe, no?
No, I think he is. I think he's proven consistently. He's obviously adapting because people try new different tactics, like tonight. Again, going for the high press from the start, kind of unexpectedly. People maybe overloading the midfield in certain games, or if you look at what Inter done, putting Sanchez in like that, and to have basically take your 9 away to just focus on pressing. And he's always adapting. He uses his staff as well. He's always looking to, I think, evolve. He doesn't get as much credit for evolving. Even like you spoke about the triangles with Trent, Salah, and Elliott at the start of the season. Like that's not just happened randomly. There's been thought behind it to do that. He's always looking to improve. And I think even like when you've got someone like a Diaz who comes in, it's like just the movement around them to create space for other people. I think spot on. I think when it comes to him in Europe, I don't want to jinx it. Do you know what I mean, Keith? I don't, but I feel like it's so normalised, and I say this a lot and probably get fed up with me saying it, but Jurgen Klopp normalises a lot, and I think we need to enjoy this moment. I feel like, again, we took a Champions League semi-final far too lightly tonight before the game. Like, it's a Champions League semi-final. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, we're not used to this. Look where we were before Klopp came. I look even a bit before that where we were. To see where we're at now, it's unbelievable. We need to embrace this and enjoy it. And I think the best point about Klopp is, it's kind of like I mentioned Trent earlier. You know when you're really, really good or great. You know when you're great, people are always trying to drag you down. Like that's what they're always like the next story. The slow news story day. So at the start of the season it was, if Tuchel wins the Premier League, is he better than Klopp? And then it was, I think, Klopp's lost this many finals. He's a failure as a manager. Like there's always a narrative to drag him down. The only consistent thing is Klopp's always involved in those narratives because he's the one who's always on top. So for me, magnificent manager. He is the best. He's the best manager in the world for me. Like fair play. Guardiola's amazing. I think Guardiola's probably the best coach. I'd say that. But genuinely, what he does in Europe, I think, Keith, we're all fans here, so let's talk about it, right? Is it not crazy that we just not expect, that's wrong, but that it's not unimaginable that we're in a semi-final or a final every year in the Champions League. Like that's where we're at right now. Like,
well, Dan, I'll pass that over to you, mate, because even in our worst days, we were still got to the quarterfinals last season of the Champions League, right? And I have this feeling that we're going to go to the final, and we might play City, we might play Real Madrid, whatever happens. But then next season, I think that we could go to the final again. Like, what?
It's right, and it's what he's built. It's what he's instilled in us, obviously, over the duration of the time he's been at the football club. And we are incredibly lucky. Like Conroy's dead right there. We should not take this for granted because we all remember the dark days. Roy Hodgson, those two words that send the shiver down most spines. But yeah, we are incredibly lucky. And Jurgen Klopp's record in Europe is one to be heralded. And he's an incredible manager, full stop, but his European record is particularly superb. And I think he has an affinity with this football club and Dortmund before it, in all fairness. Let's be honest. Let's not just sort of held ourselves to a higher esteem. He also absolutely adores the Champions League, doesn't he? Every time he speaks about the Champions League, it's in glowing terms.
So true.
And he speaks almost himself about how fortunate he is to even managing the competition. So I think there's definitely an element of that and him holding that as a higher regard. But his record in Europe has been staggering pretty much since day dot with us, even in the Europa League. And we've had no right to achieve early days in particular what we did in Europe. Like the first Champions League semi-final, realistically, we weren't quite at that level yet, but he got us there. He found a way of getting us there. Now, I think we could all agree we are of a level whereby a Champions League final, not expected, because that's not right. It's not how football works. But if you just said to me at the start of the season, you're going to get to a Champions League final, I'd go, okay, you know what I mean? That's something we could do.
You can see that happening. It wouldn't be a shock to your system.
Exactly. Whereas previously, Klopp still managed to do them sort of things, despite that probably not being the case, which is just a measure of the man. And it's just, there was a record, wasn't there? I'm pretty sure he'd have lost it by now, but the Real Madrid game last season, obviously, whereby he hadn't lost a 2-round knockout game, had he, at that point? I mean,
lost the final, then we won it. So, like, in the space of time, we hadn't lost a knockout,
Never lost, like, a 2-legged knockout tie. That's stupid. Like, that shouldn't be allowed.
That's the bit. Honestly, Dan, that is stupid. That is the best way to describe that. Like, just a shout out to the Dortmund thing, because we mentioned Dortmund in Europe. I always forget this game, but you just mentioned it there. Dortmund, I remember when Dortmund smashed Madrid 4-0 in a first leg semi-final. Like, that doesn't happen.
No.
Like, that's Lewandowski scored 4 in that game. Like, you talk about what he's done for Liverpool, but even getting Dortmund to a final, I actually still think was a big achievement at the time as well.
Massive. Because Dortmund, again, I mean, look where Dortmund are now since he left. They're nowhere near it. They're miles, even with Erling Haaland and Jude Bellingham. They're not even close to that. Jurgen Klopp is a special manager, and he instills a belief into his teams, particularly in Europe, like I say, and domestically, but particularly in Europe, that just cannot be fathomed.
No, I totally agree. Look, we're going to come on to man of the matches. I've seen a few shouts here. Konate, we got a super chat here. Conroy, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll bring up the number.
Pull that up.
Just literally came in there.
So NBA 786 shout out you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Money will only get better as a number 9. Diaz after preseason. Keita showing the haters. Konate is solid. Salah's form is worrying. Is the quadruple on? Look, when it comes to Salah's form, am I worried? I'm not, because ultimately he says one thing and it never gets picked up. It always says for the team. Everything is for the team. And if he's not necessarily scoring the hatful of goals that he needs to, he's always making sure that their left back is thinking every single time, twice, 3 times. The runs he makes, the assists he's provided. He got another assist today. He's always involved in everything that's great with Liverpool. One thing that I feel with Salah is when you're a name of that caliber, you've got to put 3 men on him. You've got to surround him. But all that does is that just gives Trent Alexander-Arnold the opportunity to play a crossfield pass to Luis Diaz, and Luis Diaz is 1v1 before you know it. So I feel like it all plays into it, and I think Salah's done more than enough to be in a situation where he doesn't have to be the main man with the goals, because as tonight has proven, we can score goals from anywhere. Is the quadruple on? Lads, personally, I have been saying that the quadruple is definitely on from January. However, the treble is in our hands. The quadruple, looking at Man City's last 3 games, and this is one thing we've always got to remember. This isn't like a Tottenham or a Leicester or a Man United who haven't challenged for the league title in a while. So they may get itchy feet in the last few games. This is Manchester City. This is the team that's won, I think 4 out of the last 5 Premier League trophies. They know how to win a Premier League. The next 3 games are bread and butter for them. If they were to slip up, it would blow my mind if we win the Premier League title. But when it comes to the FA Cup final and the Champions League final, I believe that we can 100% go in there and get those. So 3 out of 4, I'm calling now. I think we can do the treble. Conroy, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I do. I think I hear a lot of your sentiment in there, Keith, because I'm the same. Like, I think me and you do actually, a lot of people do appreciate like the football Man City play, or how good the football is and how much it nullifies opposition. Like, I think in the past, like, and it's not even a dig at Man United, but I remember when Blackburn won the league, they lost 2-1 to Liverpool, Jamie Redknapp free kick, and Man United didn't beat West Ham away. Like that, I couldn't see that happening nowadays. Like, do you know what I mean? I like some teams can just do stuff, but I feel like Man City very rarely let you get a glove, can let you have a chance to lay a glove on them. The one thing I would say is, I think MB in the chat says, see, because it's not a loss, see, because a draw, right? As I'd say, there's been stranger things to happen in football. Like the one hope I've got is, if you watch the Crystal Palace game and thought Man City shouldn't have won that game 3-0, then I don't know what you're watching, but they just didn't score. So what I'm saying is, like, if Man City had to lose, right, don't even bother watching the league games, because it's not going to happen. But they drew that game, and they should have never drew that game, but they just couldn't finish. Now, that's the one thing you might get. It might happen. They might just fail to score in one game. Someone has a blinder. Like, that could happen. That's the one thing you can maybe see. West Ham away, I'm looking at. You never know. Like, people keep saying the Europa League, but I feel like the players like Ballon and that want to shine. They want to keep putting themselves up there, like Rice especially as well. So we'll see. But it can happen. I think it's probably going to be a treble. Sorry, not probably a treble. If it is a treble, it's amazing. We can win the treble. You never know. Watch the Palace game. It might give you some hope, because they should have won that about 3-0 and they didn't. So that's what I'm holding on to.
Dan, what are you? Double, Carabao Cup only, quadruple? Where's your hat on this?
I still think the quadruple's well on. I hear what both of you are saying about Man City and their class, and I particularly hear what Conlu says about their inability to put teams away at times. But for me, it's more sort of loose than that, my theory behind the Premier League. Obviously, the two finals are in now. They're in our hands and back us to the hilt to get the job done in both, one way or another. Especially if Real Madrid overcome City tomorrow night, by the way, which I really want to happen for numerous reasons. But
now I do, because we're through now. I really want it, but I couldn't think about it until this game was
really
done.
want Real Madrid to win tomorrow night.
100%.
But yeah, in terms of Premier League, for me, it's more the fact that a couple of years ago when we both just won games consistently, and that was it, and that was the league done. That can't happen again. That cannot happen again. It's not about us slipping up this time, because us slipping up doesn't exist, because we're not the ones in pole. So it doesn't matter. If we slip up, we've just dropped points and probably done it for ourselves. They're the ones that can slip up. Yeah, they're the ones that can slip. They're the ones in command. Yeah. For me, there's a twist. I don't know when it comes, but something is going to happen.
Get Stevie on the pitch. I've seen so many tweets saying Gerrard better be starting for Villa in that game.
Yeah. Dust off them cobwebs on those boots.
Yeah. Get the Preddies out, mate.
We come to the end of the game. Obviously, look, we go to Champions League final. We go to Paris.
I know, amazing.
Yes, we've got a little, me and my boys, we've got no tickets, got a little motorhome, going to go down to Paris, park up and just like
outstanding, mate.
Be out there and party down there. But, you know, we've got to give our flowers, and, you know, we like to do this at the end of the show and give our flowers to the man of the match for what was a crazy game. Dan, I'm going to come to you first. Out of all the madness, who stood out to you?
Luis Diaz. It's got to be. It's just got to be. Like, I'm almost lamenting myself for saying it, because he only gets 45 minutes. But in my mind, that first 45 minutes,
we've done nothing in those 45 minutes. Mate. We only played 45 minutes today.
Yeah, exactly. There was no one in that first 45 that you go, actually, he might deserve. No, it was done. It was awful. Yeah, Luis Diaz. It just changed the whole shape of the game. And you alluded to the sign of the season thing earlier. And in terms of his numbers, probably don't warrant that. Like Kulusevski's numbers are probably better, I'm going to say off the top of my head. Yeah. But Diaz has not only done it himself in terms of the impact he's made, but it's the options just that one signing has given us. Because we've always spoken about the 5 forwards we've now got and sort of the embarrassment of riches Klopp's got. That's from one signing that. So even when he's not on the pitch, him being there has created this whole new dynamic to our squad. So... and he did that tonight. He comes on and just changes the whole game. So for me, he gets his goal, obviously, which is nice, and he's good when he gets the ball, etc. But he just pushes Villarreal back 10 yards and changes everything. So, yeah, Luis Diaz.
You know, that's a great shout, Dan. I'm a big fan of that. It's not just necessarily what happens on the pitch in the football match, but like his training ground. Do you know what I mean? Like having this man around, and everybody's sitting there thinking, "Rotted," I've seen this. I'm sure they've watched YouTube compilations like Abby used to watch them. That's how he got his scouting badges.
He is that good. Unfortunately, Avi's absolutely spot on though.
Abby got that spot on, man. He can have the flowers forever on that one. Conroy, are you going 2 for 2?
Yeah, mate. There's not even an argument. Like, I genuinely think, like, fair play, Trent stepped up like he did, but Trent's not man of the match. Like, I think you talk about the one person who came on and basically everything he'd done was great and positive and effective. So Diaz, easy for me. And what I was going to say as well, just we never said at the start of the show, Grizz was actually on live score tonight. That's why he's not on, because it was one of the questions I starred earlier. So that's Grizz's big time now. So that's basically it.
Big
that's it now. That's it. So you just got us now. He might pop in from time to time for a celeb stint, but he's made it now. And now he's just left us with the channel now. He'll be back for the next one. The chat also, feel free to leave who your man of the match as well. I saw some shouts for Konate. In particular, if people felt he had a solid game today, please leave who you feel in the chat. Are you with Conroy? Are you with Dan? Is it Luis Diaz? And are you going to be with me as well? Because I absolutely agree. I think Luis Diaz changed the complete complexion of that game. I thought he just pushed Villarreal 10 yards back, made them think twice before they would push up as high as they wanted to push up in the first half, and ultimately scored. And that's all you can hope for. He got the crucial second goal, which killed off the tie. I have to give one shout out though, and I thought even in the first half, I thought he was trying to do it all, and I thought he just looks so good. And it's Virgil van Dijk. Virgil van Dijk tonight, I felt like he was physically, he tried to, even when he could see that the game was going out of control, he was still in there making crunching tackles, pushing up, winning headers, taking responsibility for the situation and putting in, being the captain. I thought that was one of the first times that I saw him over 90 minutes really be a captain for Liverpool Football Club. And I thought he for me, deserves an honourable mention. But yeah, Luis Diaz, thank God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank all the gods. For all the religions you believe in the chat and out there, thank you, because, we've got a serious player on our hands. We've got a quadruple. We're still spinning the plates. The plates didn't drop at the wait, let me get the name of it again, because I had to cheat on this one. It was the Estadio de la Ceramica. And the last little bit of facts is that the owners made their money selling ceramic plates. So that's how
proper good stadium. I'd like to go to that stadium, actually. That proper good stadium. That sounded like, it looked like the atmosphere was bouncing in there. And shout out to the Villarreal fans just before we finish, Keith. Like, I found that quite nice, to be honest. At the end of the game, Liverpool fans are celebrating. And do you know what? See, the thing about that is, like, someone, I'm not going to get in it, Keith, we're going to finish, but they're saying that they were disgraceful last week. I was like, I've seen like top teams fall down at Anfield anyway, right? And tonight, like, been knocked Juventus out, knocked Bayern Munich out, and given us a hell of a first half. Probably the end of the season, the Liverpool players will probably say that's the worst first half they've had, and it might be our performance, but credit to the president of Villarreal. I thought their fans clapping them off. Like, to me, that's what football's about. Like, they've just won the Europa League, and them getting there to the semi-final, knocking the teams, the giants of European football, Juventus and Bayern Munich. Like, that's what you're meant to do. The population's, I think, 100,000, maybe even less. Like, fair play. Like, I actually thought it was really nice at the end to see that, because they deserve the plaudits as well. And I hope that doesn't get forgotten about. And I hope people say, out of all the teams we've played, barring Man City, all the money, all that spent, and it was actually Villarreal who caused us the most problems in the Champions League. Hopefully we can say that in, because that'll be nice for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out Villarreal. It's not necessarily about Liverpool playing bad. They just played damn good. And, they ran their socks off to make it happen. But ultimately, Liverpool is inevitable. And we go to Paris. But we've still got Premier Leagues to go to. And we've got Spurs on Saturday. I'm no doubt there'll be a pre-match show coming up, and there'll be the Red Fellas on Sunday. There'll be a post-match probably as well after that for Spurs. The content that we're pushing out here right now, and I say we, shout out Conroy, shout out Grizz, Dan, always coming on and filling in. It's the Liverpool players are tired at the moment. Do you know what I mean? We're doing.
Let's watch our content. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Look at the notes we have to write now. I'm joking.
We're here every couple of days. Do you know what I mean? But thank you so much to the chat for joining us. Dan, thank you as always. Been brilliant having you. Conroy, you the man. Thank you so much. You know, Conroy, he does the thumbnails, he does all the graphics, he's the man behind the scenes, and he's also the face of GrizzCon TV as well. You know that beautiful Scottish face over there. Eh?
Yeah, no, that's it. Because Grizz is too big now. That's why.
That's
Grizz
it. That's it. The next generation's here, baby.
Next
generation's here.
Oh,
right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Liverpool are going to the Champions League final. Villarreal 2, Liverpool 3. See you in Paris.